y'all. Let me hear that southern drawl when you say y'all. Put a smile on your face, don't forget to say the grace. Let me hear it good loud, put some smile in your face.
I have a question for Jim Neighbors. I'm also from Silicaga, Alabama, and I know what it means.
Well, golly.
All right, we give up. What does it mean?
It means buzzard roost in Indian.
Buzzard roost?
Did you know that? And that's why he wanted to say it. But I had a question.
I always thought it was buzzard droppings.
Oh. Maybe the interpretation was wrong.
Oh, I'm kidding.
I was curious if you had relatives there and if you ever went back to visit.
I sure do. My sister lives there, and all my aunts and uncles and everybody. I'm the only one that left. Yeah.
Okay, Linda Henning, Betty Joe, Petticoat Junction, and isn't she gorgeous?
Oh, thank you.
Do people still recognize you and say, Betty Joe?
Yes, they do. It's very nice. It surprises me. I don't expect it anymore, but they do. And sometimes in very strange ways or strange places.
Such as? Don't tell me the gynecologist.
Close.
Close?
No, I had an appendicitis attack, and I was taken to the emergency hospital. It was very early in the morning. My doctor hadn't arrived at the hospital yet, and there were all the interns and residents, so they take turns examining you, you know. And unfortunately, when you're having an appendicitis attack, the examinations you get are rather thorough. And during one of these, the guy said, "You know, you look awfully familiar. Haven't I seen you on television?" And I thought, oh.
Not then, right?
Yes.
Not now. No.
Oh, yeah, I've had them come into my hotel room when I've been in a towel or something like that. Yeah.
And they go, you, don't I?
Don't I know you? But most people are really wonderful and very nice, and it's very flattering to be recognized.
Well, I think you deserve it. Lulu, let's get to you. Hee-haw.
Thank you. I love you, Tom.
There is no mistaking your look.
It's the size, honey. It's not the look.
Do you think that people laugh when they see you just because of that? Are they laughing with you or at you, I guess?
Most of the time, they're laughing with us.
Good. Good.
Yeah. We're the ones who laugh at us.
We're talking about typecasting. Did you feel typecast?
Well, when I first got the job, you know, I'd been working in New York and working on Broadway and off Broadway, and I read for the part on a Tuesday, and they flew me out Wednesday, and we did the screen test Friday morning, John and I, and 10 days later we were shooting in Georgia, not too far from here, actually, by Conyers. And what I was more worried about was just that I wanted to be able to do other things, you know, and...
But has it been a liability, Tom?
It's been kind of worked both ways. It's opened some doors, and at the same time, it's still hard to be taken seriously. There's a certain tendency that when you work on a country-oriented show, that people don't take you seriously as an actor.
They're not going to ask you and George to do Noel Coward.
They won't confuse us with Olivier and Gielgud, no.
I'd like to ask, since they sing so well, could we impose on them to sing something?
Oh, I think that may be a bit unfair.
They're so professional. Tom and Jim and Lulu, they're great.
Can I don't know what to do about you. I have to get them off the hook. There are things called rights and union fees and musicians and stuff like that, and I'm sure they would like to do it, but there's no way. Thank you.
I was wondering if you ever met anybody in real life that you could later inspire you in any of the scripts, or when you were reading through that you thought, well, they act like that, I'm going to put that into this part.
You steal from real human beings.
Sure.
Yes?
Well,
Not me.
well,
I steal from my relatives.
Do you?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Not me. This just comes natural.
Yeah, that's right. I don't have enough going of my own.
I'd like to ask Lulu what caused her to change her past lifestyle and become a born-again Christian.
Well, I came out of an orphan's home at a very young age with a real bad attitude. I was real hurt and lonely and didn't understand why I would be allowed to be born without a mother or a father and have someone that would love me, and felt very unloved. So I literally went crazy and became involved very heavily in the drug scene. And I had a great chain of events that led to my relationship with Jesus, and that's what's changed my life.
Lulu, were you a bad girl?
I was a terrible girl.
Baywood.
Baywood, it's about 20, 30 miles outside of Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And Jim, could you give us a golly?
Golly!
How did that come about? Jim, how did Shazam and Golly come about?
I just ad-libbed it one day during a rehearsal, and they decided to keep it in there, and I just did it when the camera was going.
What about Shazam?
Excuse me, what?
What about Shazam?
Well, I just made that up too one day, so they just left it in the show. But I was going to tell you a funny story that, you asking about being recognized as the people we are if we're always in character. This happened to me at O'Hare Field just recently. It was real crowded, and I was waiting on a plane, and I noticed a few people looking at me, but nobody asked for an autograph or anything. Finally, this one little elderly lady walked over to me. She had a real thick Jewish accent, and I can't do a Jewish accent, I can barely do mine. But she came over, and she couldn't remember my name. She knew it was Gomer or Goober or something like that. She says, "You're the one on TV, Goobers, Gobers," and finally she said, "Whose piles are you?"
My question is to Jim and George. Are you all married? Do you have kids? And hallelujah, you're beautiful. Thank you.
All right, maybe this is a good time to run down the thing that people seem to want to know. If I can ask you, starting with Ellie Mae, married?
No, single now, available, just like Ellie.
Have you been married and do you have children?
Yes, I was married when I was 17, going on 12, got a son.
Okay. Jim, let's go down the...
No, I'm not married. I live in Hawaii, and I'm a farmer. I raise macadamia nuts and flowers. And
George?
I just got unmarried.
He's available, too.
Any children?
I have two. One, a son who's an actor, and I have a daughter that's in the business.
Linda?
I'm not married now, but I was married to my co-star on Petticoat Junction for 5 years. And the guy that I married on the show, I really married. It was a family affair.
They're all saying, oh. Lulu?
I'm married and I have 2 sons. 2 wonderful boys.
Tom?
Well,
Sit over there and say you're not married.
Kind of in George's position here. I'm kind of unmarried.
You're getting unmarried.
That's all they wanted to hear.
Hi, my question is more for Tom. I know that you sing a lot of country music now. Are you concentrating more on your country music or acting?
Well, I live in Nashville, so I'd have to say I'm kind of concentrating on the country music. We're going back in the studio sometime in the next month or 2. But they keep calling me back out west. I just did a series this last fall with Lindsay Wagner called Peaceable Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you. So I guess I kind of keep them both going. But we're planning on coming down here and doing some playing down here somewhere. You got a country bar down here somewhere, don't you? Some honky-tonk? We'll be down. Keep an eye out.
I'm Beverly McKeechin from Hazelhurst, Georgia, and we just want to tell you we love you in Hazelhurst, Georgia.
Thank you.
Why, a nice thing.
Right.
Go.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the part that y'all played in my childhood, because I watched a lot of the shows, that, and they were such good shows. Thanks.
What is the draw? I think that's an excellent question. What is the draw of the country shows? What did they have?
I can tell you what it is, okay? It is the loyalty of the country heart. That's what it is.
That's right.
What's that mean, Tom?
Well,
What does that mean?
it's all tied in actually with country music also. The country music fan is the most loyal music fan in the business. And another thing about country shows that I've always felt, but another thing that I've always felt is that they're geared towards the family, and they involve the family.
Yes.
And it shows the family in a positive way.
Right.
Very much so.
Well,
That's great.
Tom, with all due respect, on your show, The Dukes of Hazzard, there was a lot of T&A. Now, if you don't know what that is,
there was very little sex going on. She wore pantyhose under her shorts. You know, there's no big deal.
But I mean,
the boys never went out on a date hardly. There was no cussing. We said grace before meals. I thought it was wholesome.
From my experience, I think a lot of people related to us. I know I got a lot of letters from kids who said when they went home from school, they would play Petticoat Junction and they would be me or one of the girls. And I think that a lot of kids could identify with us. We led a life that a lot of people led. You know, it wasn't that unusual. Yes, we had some, different experiences, but I think that's one of the reasons why shows like ours are popular.
It has a lot to do with people relating to you or to the character you play or to the image that you wear. I do probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 gospel concerts a year. And everywhere I go, someone comes out of the crowd and said, "We had a hee-haw Sunday and I played Lulu."
That's right.
George, are we more Beverly Hillbillies than we are Mary Tyler Moore? Is America more country than it is anything else?
It's more rural.
It's more rural.
It's just as country in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, parts of Florida, as it is in Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee.
That's true.
But Jim,
small town.
Aren't these shows caricatures? I mean, was there anything real about these kind of shows?
There's a lot.
There's an awful lot of real things on hee-haw, honey, and it's still going real.
People used to ask me where I got the character Gomer, and actually it was just a lot of my relatives and a lot of friends. It was just all mixed together, but it was very real. And when I read for the show, I remember Andy had to tell they thought I was too far out. Because talk like it, and so they said, but the producer said, well, I think that's too exaggerated. And Andy looked at him and he says, there are a lot of old boys down home like that,
I have a question for all of y'all. Most of y'all were taping during the 60s and 70s. Were y'all involved in the drug scene?
I was. Back then, I was normally what people would refer to nowadays as a hippie doing country show. Yes, I was.
What about you, Linda?
No, I was a teenager when I got to Petticoat Junction, and I was so busy. Before that, I was doing a lot of theater, and I was a ballet dancer. So I was always busy working and rehearsing. And we worked 7 years on the show, and we used to do 39 shows a year in those days. So we worked all the time, and I didn't really have time, and I guess I was fairly naive, but I really wasn't that aware of it. At least early on I wasn't, and then when I was aware of it, I wasn't interested in it.
Linda, was Sharon Tate one of the first women on the Petticoat Junction?
Yes, she was our original Billy Joe. But she didn't do the show. There was a conflict. She did something that they felt really was. She did a Playboy layout, and they thought for a family show that wasn't a real good idea, so she was replaced.
I just wanted to ask all of you this question. Are all of y'all as proud as we are to be Southerners?
That's a good question. Are you proud to be Southerners?
I am.
Yes,
I'll start off there. Yes, it's a joy. It's a joy to do Ellie Mae, and it's a joy to be a Southern. I think that we have sort of American dream. I think that's something else the shows that makes them popular is the American dream, and I think the Hillbillies certainly had that.
Jim?
I wouldn't know how to be anything else.
Yeah.
George?
I never could have gotten a job if I didn't talk like this.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Wait a minute, you got your thumb in my soup.